Hi, I'm Dr. Janice Webb, clinical psychologist and author of 2 books, Running on Empty, Overcome Your Childhood Emotional Neglect, which came out in 2012, and Running on Empty No More, Transform Your Relationships with Your Partner, Your Parents, and Your Children, which came out just this last November. I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Danielle DeTora, who's also a clinical psychologist and who has a private practice right down the street from me in Lexington, Massachusetts, in the Boston area. And we're both couples therapists. We do a lot of couples therapy, and we refer back and forth, and it works out really great. And so the reason we're here today is to talk about how our 2 topics go together. Mine is childhood emotional neglect, and Dr. DeTora's is Imago therapy, which is a very useful type of therapy for couples. She's a certified Imago specialist, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just a quick blurb about childhood emotional neglect, because what we're here to talk about is how Imago therapy helps couples who have some childhood emotional neglect affecting their relationship. Childhood emotional neglect happens when a child grows up with parents who are not paying enough attention to his or her emotions, not noticing them, not responding to them, or even actively invalidating the child's emotions. So when a child is growing up this way, he or she, the child's brain automatically just kind of builds a wall that separates the child's emotions. So when the child has a feeling, that feeling just automatically goes to the other side of the wall, and that gets the child through the years of growing up. But once we're adults and we're in a relationship, we really have to have access to our feelings, because our emotions are the glue that holds a relationship together. If you grow up this way with childhood emotional neglect and you have this wall blocking your feelings, and then you marry someone else who has their wall blocking them, or even if it's just one person in the couple, it poses some very special challenges for the couple. And Dr. DeTora and I have both run across this quite a lot in our practices. And so we're here to talk about that today, and how Dr. DeTora's Imago training works for couples who have childhood emotional neglect, or CEN, as part of their picture.
Yes.
So, Danielle, would you like to tell us a little bit about Imago therapy and what it is?
Sure. Imago therapy, it was developed by Harville Hendricks and his wife, Helen LaKelly Hunt.
Both psychologists, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And they wrote a great book called Getting the Love You Want.
One of my favorites.
Yes, it's a great resource. And you mentioned in one of your books that we naturally are drawn to the kind of love that we received as a child growing up. And Imago therapy is basically rooted in that belief. And that familiar love causes kind of some problems in marriages and partnerships.
Right, unless your parents loved you in a perfect way.
Right, which doesn't exist.
No.
And that's okay. So Imago therapy gets at the heart of that familiar love that is not working so well in the relationship.
Yeah, like it might be incomplete.
Exactly.
Such as a CEN
Absolutely.
person.
It's exactly the fit for a CEN person, because it gets at what they didn't get or got too much of, and how that is repeating itself again in their relationship, and then causing dissatisfaction, problems, conflicts. And Imago creates a safe environment for them to be able to start to learn how to express themselves differently.
And is Imago, it has a new name now.
Imago therapy is now called Imago Relationship Therapy, and the acronym is IRT.
IRT.
So we all like IRT better than Imago therapy.
Yeah, it's a good name, IRT. So can you describe a little bit how IRT works? Like, as an IRT therapist, how's it different from some other kind of couples therapy?
Yeah, so initially a couple comes in, they face each other, which is different. Usually it's two people sitting on a couch looking at the therapist. Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they face each other, and they also have to engage in a mindfulness exercise, very brief, that helps them sort of center themselves, which again is good for people with CEN who often don't know what their emotions are, what their physical sensations are, what their feelings and thoughts and all of that. So it's a good exercise for them to learn how to figure that out.
It also is a great idea because it would anchor the couple in the very beginning of the session and help them be more internally focused, probably more in touch with their emotions, and that makes them more reachable by their partner and by the therapist.
Yes, because as you know, people will come into session with all their stuff.
Absolutely.
Their stresses.
Their work day, the kids,
fight they had last night.
All that.
Right. So the really to help people emotionally connect, they have to be able to put that aside.
Yes.
So Imago therapy, IRT, helps that. And the three skills that they learn in every session is listening, understanding, and emotional support.
Listening, understanding, and emotional support.
Every single session, they practice those three skills over and over and over.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
the three things they didn't get in childhood.
Exactly.
Right? And it's just happening right there in the room, and they're getting it from you and from their spouse.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. And they sound easy. They sound basic. But people realize very quickly how difficult it is to truly listen to somebody and not contaminate it with your own perceptions, your own ideas, your own feelings. How to really understand from a compassionate standpoint somebody else, and then to show emotional support and empathy. And then the other person gets to receive all of that. So for a CEN person who never got any of that, it is a wonderful experience, because as human beings, we all want to be heard, understood, and empathized with.
It's built into our brains.
It is. Yeah.
There's just like a natural, automatic need. Everybody needs that, and it doesn't make you needy. And, you know, CEN people often feel like they're needy.
Yes.
It makes them needy because they need to be heard and understood and seen. No.
It's a human condition.
It is. Yeah.
So the environment of an IRT session, one of the hallmarks is that nobody's allowed to blame, shame, or criticize.
That's a rule?
That's a rule that I hold everybody's accountable for that. Because you can't feel safe if you're going to be blamed, shamed, or criticized.
Right. And if you don't feel safe, you're not going to let your true self or your true emotions show.
And you're not going to be able to emotionally connect.
Or be vulnerable.
Right. And so it's that emotional connection that is at the heart of IRT, is always trying to get couples to connect that glue, get them to access that glue that will hold them together and then keep the relationship interesting.
And do you agree with me that it's not just positive emotions that are the glue, it's the negative ones too?
It's everything. It's
anger, it's hurt, all of that stuff, dealing with it in a couple, in a safe environment, like you're describing, that's what keeps a couple together. And
I help people really take responsibility for their own perceptions. And again, without a blaming, shaming, criticizing partner, they're able to own whatever is going on for them, whether it's anger or sadness
or hurt
or disgust.
Yeah, it can get very negative and still have a positive effect. Just getting it out and talking about it when it's done in the right way.
Exactly, it's all about the right way.
So to me, it sounds like IRT gives a couple, it sets up an environment that is the opposite of what the couple grew up with as children, especially if they have CEN. And it also, just like right there in the moment, it teaches the couple the very skills that they didn't get to learn in childhood because they weren't being listened to enough. They weren't being validated. They weren't being seen.
That's right.
So it's like the antidote to CEN.
It is.
CEN, IRT. They go together.
They do.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about IRT before we?
It's one of the most effective. It is the only way that I work with couples anymore because I have found it to be so effective at getting at the heart of a relationship. And it is a really beautiful process when two people connect emotionally.
Isn't it?
And
yes.
they just feel better. They are so much more satisfied in their lives. And that's kind of cool to watch.
Especially since
to be a part of.
Research actually shows, I love it when it happens in the room. I've cried more than once with couples, or teared up.
Yeah.
Research shows that how happy you are in your primary long-term relationship is the biggest contributor to overall happiness, bigger than your job quality, your income, multiple other factors. So
absolutely,
it's key.
It is key. It's the gold.
Yes, it's the gold. That's right. So what is, you should mention your website. You have a website.
I do. It's DrDanielleDeTora.com. It's a lot of letters.
You want to spell that for us?
Sure. DrDanielleDeTora.com.
Yes. Worth the time it takes to type that in.
Yes.
And my website is emotionalneglect.com. And if you want to learn more, you can visit either of our websites. And I hope that you've enjoyed learning about IRT and how it can help CEN couples.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.